Ooh, nice.
Guys, we're on.
Oh.
Hey, sorry.
You good?
Hey, one more time. Hey, I'm Saladin Ahmed, writer of Daredevil, Wolverine, and lots of other stuff, and you are on Splash Pages.
Of course, is the one obvious thing.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. There's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.
Hey, happy Saturday, everybody. You are watching Splash Pages. My name is Leo. I'm the monkey behind the keyboard here. We have an awesome show scheduled for you as always, and we'll kick it on over to Jar Jar. How's it going, bud?
Hey, how's it going? I don't know if my internet's screwing up for you guys, but it's screwing up for me. So if I fall out, I'm very sorry. Hopefully you can hear me.
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
This is how you say welcome back?
Yeah, welcome
Internet
back.
issues? Jeez, god damn it, man. Hey, everybody, it's Saturday. It's still bright out, and I don't know why, but I think something had to do with the sun. I don't know. I'm kind of discombobulated right now. But, yeah, we're here. We have a fantastic show. Really glad that this fantastic guest, that's two fantastics, but I'm not going to say four of them because Leo doesn't know anything about that. But back to what I was saying. We have a stellar guest on who is a busy man, but we're so glad he was able to come on because we have a lot to talk to him about. You've seen him in the literary world. You've seen him primarily in the comics, where we've seen him on Daredevil, Wolverine. He's worked on Miles Morales' Spider-Man, the fantastic, the marvelous Miss Marvel, and he's also been working on a bunch of other things. His book Abbott, their sequels. He's also working on a book currently, Star Signs, and a bunch of other things. We're really excited to have him on. But without further ado, everybody, the one, the only, Mr. Saladin Ahmed.
Hey. How's it going, everybody?
Hey,
Going
Saturday.
Yeah, thank you for joining us on a Saturday. It's great.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
Sort of awake, kind of awake.
Yeah, don't worry. It's hot out for everybody too. That's why we're all hydrated here. You know, water.
Yeah.
Water's our friend. Normally we're Smash Pages where we'll talk to you. We'll have some drinks. Things get a little crazy, but
Yeah,
no crises yet.
Another time.
No.
Another time.
No
Yeah,
crisis.
exactly. No, yeah. Listen, trust me, Saladin. We could get some House of M up in here, but we don't want to be no more Marvel. I'm like, oh crap. So, well, thank you for joining us. And like I said, man, you're busy. Like I was
Yeah,
looking
you
up
are.
everything. I was like, since you've hit the scene, man, you've been everywhere, busy working on stuff. Like, how did that come about? I mean, like you started in the literary world, and then you started was with Marvel, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so I guess it dropped 2017. It's like 8 years ago now. It was first issue of Black Bolt, which was my first comic book work. Um, but it was kind of like coming full circle for me because I really, I'm turning 50 this year, so I'm of the era of like when you could buy Marvel comics in the supermarket, right? And that's like what I did as a kid. Read comics, especially Marvel, some DC, but I was mostly a hardcore Marvel head, kind of like from the like 80s into like early 90s, and that was like really that and like Dungeons and Dragons books, right, were like my bread and butter in terms of how I learned really to read or write. I didn't necessarily go to like great schools or anything, although I had some helpful teachers. So
Mm-hmm.
when I started to kind of decide I was going to try and do writing as a thing, I went through a very like strange path to get to comics. I didn't start writing comics till my 40s. I was writing poetry. I lived in New York City for a good number of years and kind of part of a little collective there doing like weird poems for our other 10 friends and stuff like that, and sort of very abstract experimental work for a very small audience. And I kind of went from that to I talked to a friend of mine I remember who was another weirdo writer, and we reunited after a little while not hanging out, and she was working on a romance novel. She's like, I always want to write a romance novel, right? And she was this weird experimental playwright, and I was like, I always want to write a fantasy novel. So I did something about that got me. It lit the fuse. I wrote a fantasy novel that's a kind of like Arabian Nights, Lord of the Rings mashup in a way, and it did pretty well. It wasn't like a major massive bestseller, but it got critical attention, and I got like some nice attention within the field, like George R. R. Martin and stuff like that. Like kind of made some connections with people who had been doing this for a while.
Right.
And I published that novel. It got the critical acclaim, but I still sort of, I missed the idea of connecting with a truly large audience and with characters that they're familiar with, and the kinds of things that I'd read as a kid. And so,
Right.
this was in the age before Twitter was a mess, and people were actually kind of using it to make cool connections with each other. And randomly, Will Moss, an editor at Marvel, reached
Mm.
out to me on Twitter because I tweeted a lot about comics as well, right? And so
Right.
he knew I knew the world, and I knew how to do a story because he'd read my novel, and so he was just sort of like, we're looking for somebody to kind of. This is a point where they were trying to kind of make Inhumans a thing again, and he was like, "Have you ever thought about writing for Marvel?" and I was like, "Here's my 20 pitches that I've had saved up for 30 years," and. And then I learned pretty quickly that's not how it works. It's like, here's this, obscure book we want you to work on to kind of prove yourself a little bit, right? And then you get more and more kind of commercial opportunities. And so he was like, Black Bolt is, and I was like, oh, the guy with the cool costume, right, with the weird little wings and the and the antenna and the he's an Inhuman, right? I was a little rusty on my Inhuman, so I went deep researching and then like fell in love with the character actually, and then
Right.
wrote a very character-based book, very weird, arty book with Christian Ward, who really, really deserves a lot of the credit because I didn't really know what I was doing writing comics when I started, and he really helped me figure out how to go from the world of like fiction, right, where you don't have pictures, you have to evoke everything just using words, right? So if somebody has red hair, that has to be part of your prose. If somebody's on one side of the room, somebody's on the other side of the room, that has to be part of your prose. If somebody's feeling sad, that has to be part of your prose, right? Whereas an artist conveys all of those things, right, through like the facial acting, the way they draw the layout of the room,
Right.
and Christian really was like, I wrote these like voluminous scripts at first. He's like, you don't have to spell all this out. That's my job. I'm drawing, right?
Right,
And
right.
so once we learned how to do that together, it really unlocked something for me. I was, supposed to write a fantasy series, and I got stuck
Mhm.
after the first novel, even though it got a lot of attention because it's a very solitary craft, novel writing, whereas comics is very collaborative, right? It's like being in a band versus being a solo artist or something.
Right.
And I, yeah, the interaction with Christian and with Will, the editor there, who's brilliant, was just, yeah, it unlocked something with me for sure. Where, yeah, I became productive in a way that I'd been sort of stalled a little bit for a while, and just Marvel started being based on, fortunately people noticed Black Bolt, even though it was kind of a weird book, and it did win an Eisner, and so, Marvel was like, hey, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Started throwing other stuff at me. And so I was like, yes, 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 yes. And so now, fast forward, 7, 8 years later. And that is, yeah, that's my bread and butter, is basically writing comics. I do some DC stuff too, which we'll talk about in a little while, but is just monthly superhero comics is like the world I live in, and I live in it a lot. So you're right that I'm busy, for sure.
Do you plan to go back to your fantasy series and try to expand on it?
I mean, I've thought about it many times, and I would like to before I die, but I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
know when I don't know when that's going to be exactly. So, and it has to kind of be the right timing, and it's also a question of economics. Is like it's a tough environment to make a living as a writer, no matter what you're doing. But it's much tougher when it's like writing a second novel in a series, right? Which is like,
Mhm.
because you have to spend a year working on that at least, and usually a couple years, and so it's really, if becoming a working writer teaches you anything, it teaches you kind of like how to balance that inspiration and love with the practical reality of, okay, I gotta, feed my kids next month, and what work will do that still
Right.
satisfies me, what work won't,
Absolutely.
and it's
Yeah.
a dance for sure.
Yeah, it's the reality of being a creative. It's just, you need, like, yes, it's good and it's great and it's very satisfying, but like you said, it sometimes can be rather inconsistent, especially even in
Yeah,
comics. You have no idea, that a book is going to be a bestseller. It's a job. You're getting
yeah,
paid this, and then, oh wow, we got a second printing. That's cool.
yeah, yeah,
Or, oh wow, we've got a fourth printing. Holy bonanzas! Like, wow. And then, you're doing well, and then, well, it's going to get canceled in 12 issues. You're like, well,
right.
that sucks. I would have liked to write more, but let's wrap this up.
Yeah,
Um,
no, it is a reality. It's determined mostly by forces outside yourself. So you just kind of write the best things that you can write, connect with fans the way you
mhm.
can, and just hope for the best, kind of thing.
So a question I had is, I've noticed that a lot of your work, are, I guess, what I like to think of as legacy characters, long-standing characters. I mean, Miles Morales, you did Miss Marvel, and even other things like Exiles, even Wolverine and Daredevil. These are characters that have been around a long time. A lot of people, so going into that, how do you balance, being kind of true to the legacy of the character, but then pushing them to new things? Because again, you're the next in line. So it's okay. Do I just kind of play it safe and just, I'm gonna punch the Joker,
Right, right.
or do I try something new? It's that, how do you maintain that I guess precarious balance of comics, you know?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that is like when you're doing big two stuff. That's really at the core of it, right? And it's
Hmm.
interesting because it's a different challenge with each character, right? Like, so when I did Black Bolt, I had the benefit really of the fact that Hickman had done a little bit of stuff with him, Kirby
Hmm.
obviously, but like he was not a fully fleshed out character. People had not thought about like just like how did he grow up? What is his like his emotional, his internal life, right? Like people had not thought about that character as a character much at
Hmm.
all. They thought about him as kind of a cool action figure who can blow up all the other action figures kind of thing. But like so the opportunity there is to come in and do the kind of thing that, like, it's interesting because I was doing that book right around the same time Tom King was doing Mr. Miracle, right? And he did this
Great
like
series.
acclaimed, really surreal kind of run
Mm.
with Gerard's on there, and it was like that. That to me was awesome work. It was the perfect work for me to come into comics from, because I was coming from a literary world where you just kind of write what you want, you know,
Right.
and there's not these constraints of intellectual property. And so having a character where we were free to do some weird stuff, bringing my absorbing man pitch that I'd wanted to do for however many years about prisons and the effect they have on people and things like that. You know, I was able to squeeze that into this Black Bolt book because it was a weird book, right?
Right.
When you go to like writing Wolverine, right, like as iconic a character other than maybe Peter as Marvel has, the expectations are a little bit different, right? Partially because, you know, you're expected to kind of stick a little closer to what people know of the character, but also it's as you're saying, like with a Black Bolt, everything is new because hasn't
Right.
gotten nearly as much screen time, right? But with
Mhm.
a Logan, so many Wolverine stories have been told, so it's like, can you scratch the itch that the fans are going to have, and then can you
Right.
also give them something new? And if Marvel hands you one of those bigger characters, you know, they're basically asking you to do those things at once, both those things at once, and
Right.
it's always like, you know, it's a balancing act. I mean, I'm working on Daredevil is getting ready to wrap actually with number 25, and you know, it was a balancing act throughout because I was trying to bring a kind of new mysticism to the character and
Mhm.
put him in a kind of parental role, sort of as this foster father in one part of the book,
Right.
but it's definitely like I can say I know I'm pretty good at knowing my own weaknesses. You know, like everything you concentrate on and focus on and try and introduce is less
Mhm.
screen time, as it were, page time, that then you have to do like some of the more classic stuff. So, like for instance, Matt and Elektra's relationship suffered in my series, you know, and it's strictly a matter of bandwidth. It's like you can't do everything at once, so you have to choose. And I was like, you know, Chip just did like the ultimate Daredevil Elektra story, right? So like ultimate Matt and Elektra story. So um, my work is something different, you know, and so I went
Mhm.
to a different sort of corner of the character, and I think that's the best thing about these characters is they bounce between different creators, and even if that's not a Wolverine story for you, if all you care about Logan is like that he's the baddest badass and he can come back from anything and he can kill anybody, you know, there's some of that in my run because people want that with Wolverine. That's
Right.
part of him, right? But if that's the biggest thing you care about with Wolverine, I'm not going to be your favorite Wolverine writer. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? If
Mhm.
you care about like what a hurt guy who got kicked out of the house at like whatever 6 years old and his mother killed himself and he's all fucked up in the head because of it, you know, like people
Yeah.
are responding to that part of my Wolverine, you know, and so like I'm definitely generally like a little bit more psychological of a writer. I'm not necessarily always going to be the guy who's like, oh, this character has a crazy new power set and it, you know, shifts things that way. It'll be more like we've established that this character is like deeply depressed because of X, Y, and Z. But it sounds silly, but until you think about really, especially with Marvel, that's really what always made Marvel different, right? It's not. It's like Peter's awesome. His powers are awesome. He looks. His costume's cool as hell. But it's like
But
it's
his
him
term
as a
paper's
person.
late.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
He's behind on rent. Well, I had one or
Exactly.
two other questions I could ask, but Jeremy, Leo, did you have anything? I don't want to dominate this.
Well,
Yeah,
I was going to say, oh, go ahead.
One at
yeah,
a time.
no,
Sorry.
yeah. I was gonna. You mentioned something a little earlier, is collaboration with the artist. Now, I'm more of a DC kid, but and I never really got into Daredevil, but from reading your Daredevil, I absolutely loved it, and it's what's the collaboration with the artists like? A lot of Marvel I find to be like too wordy, and it's like the writer doesn't really, they're just going to write as much as they want, and the artist just fit in the word bubbles however you
Yeah.
can. But your work
Guilty.
is, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's your Daredevil. It read like, I'm a big Batman guy, and it felt like I was reading, a Batman type story, um, but how does that collaboration work with you
And
for it to work so well?
and also to
Yeah,
piggyback off that briefly, we've interviewed your frequent collaborator Aaron Cooter, who
yeah,
super nice guy,
yeah,
and loved his style. We got to interview him last year at Terrific Con, and he was spectacular. Really, he had such nice things to say about working with you and on Daredevil, and his art just
yeah.
gorgeous. So I
No,
just want to say we know he's fantastic, but
yeah,
you know
that's
you're
good. That's good. I'm glad because I would have spent more time singing his praises. Daredevil was just kind of a weird book because here's the thing that people don't, when you're outside the process that you don't see, right, is like, this is like our dream job, but
Mhm.
it's still a job, right? So just like your job, right? You have days where you're like, what the fuck? How did this work come in? And I'm trying to fix this thing, and now they're throwing this at me, and it's just like that because every industry is going to have its like bad days and crazy days, and that Daredevil book, I feel like kind of succeeded almost in spite of itself. There was a lot of weird things going on with schedules and editorial and stuff like that. None of which was like Marvel's fault, wasn't my fault, wasn't Aaron's fault. It was just kind of like how things hashed out.
Right.
And still, Aaron was just like so consistently professional and still bringing his A game throughout yeah,
Yeah.
I just that was masterful. It was a different process than some of my other collaborations because really, because of some of the disjointed communication stuff, he really was doing that. I won't say on his own, but in some previous collaborations, say like on Black Bolt, right, or in the early issues of Miles, constant like back and forth. It was like having a new girlfriend or something. You're constantly on the phone with your artist, right? You're like talking to each other all the time about, and that really depends on who the writer is, who the artist is. Did you guys know each other before, right? Do you is it somebody who kind of seems to want to mostly be left alone to do their thing, or are they somebody who really wants a lot of direct, constant interaction on notes? And so, kind of like relationships, right? To ask like what a collaboration is like is almost like what is a marriage like, right? Like it depends on
Right.
the marriage, right? And so,
Mhm.
I try to be adaptable to the artist I'm working with. So if there's somebody who needs a lot of direction in action scenes, right, then I'll spell out Daredevil punches with his left, fist. But if there's somebody who just wants to be kind of let loose, then I'll be like, okay, on this page, Daredevil and Electra beat these guys up. By the end, the last guy should be standing, right? Just very vague instructions, and then they'll do the fight, and then I'll go script to the fight. So
Right.
it's really, for me, it's about being flexible about the working with the people you're working with, which I think any job you should be.
Well, it
Absolutely.
works really well for you, especially I mentioned Daredevil, but I'm also really enjoying your Wolverine. It's and you hit it on the head. It's cool to see Wolverine just freak out, but like when he's fighting Wendigo, when he's about to go in for the kill and strike and realize something's off and like stops within inches. It's awesome
Yeah.
stories. Love it.
And
Yeah.
then Jeremy, you had a question?
Yeah, yeah. Well, you created Amulet. I was wondering how is that like to create a character for a universe that's so well established? What do you have to go through to bring a new character in?
Yeah, it's on a certain level, right? Like most writers are constantly doing that because like even if you're using mostly established characters, inevitably you're going to have to like, okay, we just need to make up a lunkhead villain here. So okay, I'm Mr. Rockfist or whatever, crappy name you come up with. Okay, what's his powers? Let's do it. Okay. Usually you never see that character again, right? It's just like a
Yeah.
one-off. But the incredibly bizarre, wonderful thing about the Marvel universe is, right, it all goes into the database. And so then 5 years later, when somebody's like, we need a lunkhead character who has like rock based powers, but like, oh, but this guy's busy. Is oh, there's Mr. Rockfist. He hasn't been used much, right? And then you bring in Mr. Rockfist and like you make a thing of him, right? So planting those seeds for me is always like not necessarily like I don't have the hubris of like, oh, this is going to be Marvel's next big character. It's
Hmm.
planting seeds that might make bear fruit that eventually somebody else might pick up, and for me it's like there were a couple of guiding principles when I was doing that. One is regional. I'm from Detroit, and like, as much as Marvel was my bread and butter growing up, I didn't know anything about New York City, right? I was like, everything I knew about New York City, I learned from Marvel Comics and like, punk rock later on, right? So,
Yeah.
like, I want Western superheroes, right? And not just the Great Lake Avengers, right? I want like, Detroit-based superheroes. So the two characters that I did create for Marvel that like had a little bit of traction, mostly in some other media stuff, is Starling for Miles Morales. It was his like love interest, sort of Black Cat, although she's a hero, not a villain, but sort of anti-hero-ish hero. And she was the Vulture's granddaughter, right? So I like to do those kind of ties to the legacy, and that made her a Spider-Man character. To my mind, it made sense for her to be with Miles. And but I made her a girl from Detroit, right? And then when I did like a little short story in Amazing Spider-Man, kind of showing her origin, right? I show the Vulture, like, who's usually a scumbag, his soft spots for his granddaughter, and so he's like teaching her how to fly with little wings he made for her, right? And that's how she became the Starling or whatever, right?
Right.
So it's always for me about like taking stuff that seems to be missing from me, for me, and connecting it to the stuff that was there before, right? So with Amulet, he's from Dearborn, Michigan, which is right next door to Detroit, which is really where I grew up, right? It's a big Arab American enclave, been vilified in the news bizarrely. It's so strange because growing up, I thought it was in the middle of nowhere, and then like after 9/11, people started to do these stupid, this is terrorist town USA stories and things like that, and so, I just wanted to counteract that a little bit, and made Amulet. He's the kind of guy I grew up with, like a big football player-y, Arab American guy who's pretty sweet though. I want to give him defensive powers. Everybody's got powers that can hurt people, and I wanted powers that were just about protection, and
Right.
and that was a cool case because Marvel was willing to go. I was like, we need somebody who knows the culture to design this guy, right? And I was really thinking traditional superhero suit, and we went to an artist named Sarah Alfagi, who's she does mostly original stuff. She's done a graphic novel and stuff like that, but she did a popular redesign on Tumblr of Dust, the X-Men character, right? And so Marvel knew who she was, and I was like, she'd do a great design. So she did a design based on the Nazar, which is like that little blue evil eye amulet you see around, right? And so she built a whole character whose armor was centered around that, and it's like that wouldn't have occurred to another artist to do unless they were kind of coming from that culture. So that was a kind of real perfect storm, being able to do that. But it's definitely the kind of thing that you have to, I don't know, you have to you have to get enough cred with them to do, right? Like I didn't make those asks until I'd been working with them for a couple of years and was like, hey, my turn, kind of thing.
There you go.
Well,
Well,
I actually was going to say I enjoy how diverse your casts are and stuff, and how much you bring social issues into the forefront of the stories and stuff. But do you get any like yeah, what would the word be? Uh, lashback from the readers sometimes that like, oh, this is woke or anything like that controversy.
Yeah, absolutely. I loved the internet. I loved social media. Like I say, that's how Marvel found me. It was because one editor had read my book and DM'd me. If it had relied on the traditional networks, it probably wouldn't have happened. That said, I got completely off of social media about 2 years ago, something like that. And
Good
I
for you.
don't regret it at all because
My wife's
sometimes I
done the
regret it
same
when I
thing.
have something big and new and I want to promote it, but like, that's about the only time is like when I can't like just tell everybody, hey, I'm making something new, and that sucks. But yeah, it wasn't like people drove me off at all. Like I'm not that soft. I've had people calling me things my whole life, so like, and in person, and when you fight over it, right? Like I'm old enough to like having grown up just before the internet, right? Like my perspective on this stuff is just like these guys would like be like, oh, you want to make terrorists Marvel comic blah 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 blah. You know want to convert everybody to Islam because I wrote Ms. Marvel or something, right? And you know, I was just like, I come from a world where like, are you gonna fight me? Like, if you're not gonna fight me, then you're just talking, you know,
Right.
like, and like, you know, it's just there was so much talking, but it does get to you after a while. You're just like,
Yeah.
just on a
Oh, I
noise
can
level, right?
imagine.
So you're just so I don't miss encountering that, but I will say that even online, that was a small fraction of what I got. Mostly it was just like people being cool and appreciative. And what you
Good.
really realize is in person. When you go to conventions, you go to comic book store signings, and there's
Right.
none of that bullshit. There's none of that because those people are not going to
Oh
come up
no, yeah,
to you. They're all
not in
No.
cowards,
real
right?
life.
And so it's just people who are like adults reading comics, people bringing their kids like in Miles Morales costumes and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's where I want my head to be, you know, in that
Absolutely.
space, you know.
And
So
and well, another thing, and Leo, well, I also wanted to bring up, I'm a huge Exiles fan. So when I read your book, because I loved the original series, and I got to speak to Mike McCone, who I know did some
oh
work
yeah,
for
yeah,
you during the series, and told him how
yeah. He
much I
did
loved
these
it.
great covers. Yeah,
Yeah, well, him and Judd, and then Jim Calafiore, all of them did with
yeah.
Exiles was fantastic, and I loved the energy. So first, I wanted to bring up some of my favorites. We're like, this is just, I think, the greatest background. Like I have yet to see this in someone's background. And for those not reading, Exiles was a team of mutants from different realities that are tasked, of course, with saving the multiverse one world at a time. And this is one reality. I think this was during Ben Grimm when he was Blackbeard the pirate,
Right.
and he's got this. And this one panel, I was like, this is the greatest use of huzzah I've ever seen out of the Ren
uh,
Fair.
yeah.
So like this was fantastic. And just I just needed to just huzzah. Just yes.
I
So
appreciate that. Yeah, Javier was like, that was with Javier Rodriguez, and he has
mhm,
such a unique style. It's not a traditional Marvel style, and it's but it's so innovative and so like you can do. He does so many things that you wouldn't do in a normal Marvel book, and yeah, I was thankful for that book because Exiles was another one where they just because it was alternate universe shenanigans, right? Like I'm like, okay, let's
right.
have a cute little cartoon Wolverine instead of, you know, like
It,
the
it's
tough
it's
Wolverine. Let's have, and they were like, yeah,
it,
sure, yeah, sure. I was
it's
like,
funny
cool.
it's funny you said that because that was one of the other ones that I had, Leo, if you wouldn't mind. I did this one moment, I think, where you're, well, no, this, I loved how you kept bringing back the original Exiles. You had Sabretooth. You had one
Yeah,
panel, you had the old morph you came in. You
yeah,
had
yeah,
Sabretooth, and this is Sabretooth from the Age of Apocalypse,
yeah, yeah.
which you're just like, oh shit, this. And then the next one, Leo, this was adorable. You're dealing with this multiverse destructive Kang, and all little Wolvie, he's not Wolverine, little Wolvie just wants to do is just he keeps dying, popping back into existence, and just wants to give the guy a hug. And I was like, I was like, Scotty Young, like, this is your Wolverine, dude.
It's so
Like,
funny because I think I was working on this book before I knew who Scotty was, right? But like I was
mhm,
like afterwards, I was like, God, why didn't we have him doing variants for this?
right?
Because yeah,
Yeah,
no, this is like you know, I grew up on Bugs Bunny and shit like that, right? So this is like Daffy Duck, just like you know, you think you blew him up, and then he's over here, now he's over here, now he's just driving like Elmer Fudd crazy or whatever. So
yeah.
that's pretty much what that's supposed to be.
And then another thing you had TJ, you had Nocturne. This was during one of your storylines when they're in the Old West, which again, that was still one of my favorite versions of T'Challa. I was like, yo, Christopher Priest would love this.
Yeah,
Like you had Nocturne and Blink sitting down, and they're talking about when the original Exiles, and they all are just there roped together to save the multiverse, and you just realize how far both the characters have come. And then the next one is one of the best. You had Exiles in fairy tales. You had Arabian
that's
Nights. So
Arabian Nights. Yeah.
I just like that. Caliph Doom killed me. I was like, I'm done. I'm done. Like just the whole thing.
Oh
Even
man.
Doctor Strange is like the Jafar
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
story
yeah, yeah.
was But this was fantastic because you have them, and it's like, is this carpet getting bigger? Like, did it get bigger in comics? And everybody's like, it's magic, and I'm just like,
Yeah,
of course, it's
that's how it works.
no rules.
Fairy tale
It's
magic.
but like again, this was great, but the last one killed me because I was like, you got to do the to me, my exiles. I've always wanted to say that. Like you had Blink's shining moment, and then you even had a kind of happy ending after 12 issues. You know, the like, okay, you know what? We saved the world. We're here if shit goes down. Let's just all chill and be happy that we're all here. You know,
I am a happy ending addict, in general. Like, in general, unless it's true horror, in which case you got to end in a pretty dark place.
right?
I'm generally gonna there'll be pain and sacrifice, but I don't ever want to end in bleakness. It's just too much like reality, you know.
Yeah, right. But and then the next one is something that I wanted to bring up. This is actually from your Daredevil run, is that you brought back the black armor, and we've had
All right,
on
yeah.
Dan Chichester,
Oh
who
yeah,
was
the
the
man
guy who created it,
himself.
and we
Yeah,
brought
yeah,
this up to him, and he had no idea. Like he did the
yeah,
black armor series because he was like, wow, apparently people liked it. You know, I would have liked
yeah.
that back when people were like, you're ruining our Daredevil.
Yeah,
Like, oh,
right. I think they
so
did give him a mini in the black armor as well. I
yeah,
believe
they did,
around the
and
same time because it was,
yeah,
people. It looks cool.
oh yeah, we
That's the thing
talked to
about
him about it,
comics.
and he had no idea that your book of doing. He's like, oh wow, that's so cool, and then so you got thumbs up there.
Okay, makes me
But
happy.
the reason that I wanted to bring this up is because I've noticed your work. You like you said, you like filling in gaps. So I love that, like this, and then in Wolverine, you're going back to the origins with his
Yeah,
mother and Sabretooth and stuff. So, you know, again, I really like, I love, like Leo said, I love your appreciation of the past. You're not afraid to be like, Marvel isn't doing anything with this.
right,
Let's dust this off, bring this back. Again, like, yes, this is nostalgia, but let's have it with a purpose.
right. That's
You
exact.
know,
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, that's exactly
yeah,
it. Because I'm not necessarily the writer who's going to throw everything into a crazy new status quo that gets everybody talking. Sometimes I wish that was my impulse, is just to I'm not a Hickman, and I love what Jonathan does, but I can't do it. It's not where my chops lie, right? My chops are
right,
more, so much has been done with so many of these characters, and because we're in this business of relentless monthly comics that have to be just 20 pages an issue, right? There's so
mhm,
much untapped, right? Like, we know that Wolverine's mother committed suicide because her kid was a quote unquote monster, right? That's
right,
insane. That's fucking insane, right? My mother died when I was
Unreal.
7 years old, okay? And it had a massive effect on who I am as a person, right? And that inevitably would have shaped a lot of who Logan is. Why have we not thought about that yet? Right?
right.
So let's go back there. Let's dig it up. And that's like the black armor, the exiles, little like past hits. I feel like that's what I love doing, is building that connective tissue and then making it say something new, rather than like, here's a big new plot point that nobody's ever imagined before. I think sometimes I do
Absolutely.
that. We did Daredevil versus the seven deadly sins. I was like, here's a cool new idea. Let's do this. But unless it really strikes me, I'm generally going to be digging in the past, digging in. I come from the era of hip hop when you went digging through old boxes to find records, right? To find beats on, and that's like, that's the equivalent to me.
Yeah, and just the other thing is that you like again. I noticed, especially during your Wolverine, like at one point is you kind of continue that trend of Wolverine is the best, worst surrogate dad in the world. Because like for this one, this was hysterical because again, as we know, the Wendigo in the Marvel universe just says his name. He's
Yeah.
essentially the equivalent of a Pokemon. But but
Never thought of
Logan
that.
teaches
For
him
real.
he can talk. He says help, and like, did you just say something?
Yeah.
And then even this one, I love this. Like, when to go? It's like, no, when to stay.
I'll always
Like,
put a bad pun in there. That's
oh yeah, that was great. But the moment that really touched me was at the end of kind of this story. Is Leo the next one? Um, this moment, like the kid is human again, whatnot. Like he thanks Logan, and Logan's like, "All right, I'm gonna give you a hug. I don't want to. It'll ruin
yeah,
my rap. I'm
yeah.
not the best there is at what I do is hugging, but you know, but
He's
it's
a
just
teddy
like,
bear.
Oh, that's funny.
yeah, he is. But you see like the trend. Like Wolverine has constantly been a surrogate dad to so many X-Men, like Kitty
Yeah,
Pryde, his own daughter, Laura. I mean, he was the headmaster of his own school at one point, so he had students. You know, he doesn't want to admit it, but he's that person where he's a teacher, and he knows, like you said, he knows what it's like to be alone and feared, and he can't help but be there when people need him. He will never let you hear the end of it, and he will make you buy all the beer possible. But so I like, again, I noticed that, and I was like, that's really sweet, especially because I think in Age of Revelation, correct me if I'm wrong, but are you doing the one where
yeah,
he's like a wolf? Yeah, right. So that's you. So
yeah, yeah.
he's the Wolverine of that time period, right?
Yeah, so we don't like, it's still early days, so we don't want to give away too
Yeah,
much. But this
that's fine.
this event is nuts. It's pretty cool. Like uh, it's 10 years in the future, essentially, of where the X-Men books are
Mhm.
now, and it's like I don't want to give away anything more, but
Right.
basically, people are going to see a bunch of new books starting when the event starts that are like, what
Cool.
the hell is this book? And I know people will be like, I know, probably a little skeptical. I just, not even just mine, but and this is not, you never hear me being like, buy every book in this event. It's not my thing. I don't shill like that. But like, if you want to see crazy weird shit happen with beloved characters, like, you should tune into what's happening with Age of Revelation, because it's cool. We've been just given a lot of space to do new things. And so with me, because we had this character, Leonard, who was, at least when we first saw him, was consumed by the Wendigo curse. In our current title, it seems to be human again, but as we'll find out how this happens. But we have what's called
Right.
the Last Wolverine as a new book,
Yeah.
10 years in the future, where he appears to be wearing the Wolverine costume and playing that role, and
Yeah.
it's gonna get crazy. I'm excited.
Oh,
Very cool.
absolutely. And before we get to talk about your new book with DC in August, I just also want to say, I mean, you have the like little story and the Age of Revelation one shot, and I thought that was just really sweet because I think people forget Wolverine's been alive for 200 something years. That's a lot of history.
Yeah, yeah,
So I think it's always great when people tell like a story that's, again, the filling in gaps, because
yeah,
like you said, Wolverine was a character who mind wipes a lot of bullshit because of government tampering and all that. And then House of M, he got all his memories back, and he's like, fuck,
yeah,
like I gotta remember all this now. I
yeah,
left the fridge open a lot. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
just, again, the story was just so beautiful about how I was like, hey, listen, I made a promise. I got distracted. Here's your thing, and you even had that little line. I think it was like something imperfect or something like that.
yeah.
Or,
Uh,
yeah. And it
I'm an
was just,
extraordinary individual or something, or
yeah,
I got
exactly.
to go
And
look
I,
at my own script to remember.
I read it like yesterday. So my brain's like, but, no, but it was, again, man. I just, like, you have to, like, I appreciate it, and I'm sure Jeremy and Leo can agree with me on this. Like, it is hard to tell a good story in few pages, and I thought you did a really good job with that, because I feel like some people, they get so boggled down because just the idea, and I'm like, just tell the story in as much time as you need. Don't fill it up with words. Don't, just do the thing.
Yeah,
Just
no, it's hard.
do
It's
the
hard to
thing.
have a beginning, a middle, and an end in 5 pages. I just did another story for um, well, you guys will see it when it comes out. But there's, speaking of new characters,
Mhm.
there's a new kind of hero in the Spider-Man corner of the universe that sort of
Mhm.
building, and he's appearing in the five. 5-page short story before he starts appearing some other place, and so I just wrote this for the Spider-Man editors, and
Oh, cool.
it's. I was pleased with myself because I was like, hey, something happens here. We meet the guy, something happens, and then we get an ending. Cool, because it is tough. It's very tough to do in 5 pages. So I appreciate that you like the short
Oh,
for that.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And then I guess now, since I know you gotta go in a bit. You're working on a new book for DC. I believe it's Justice League Red. So
Yeah.
what can you talk about that, or do we have to wait till
Yeah,
August?
no. We got I think
Okay,
like there's solicits for like I think the first couple issues out, so we've got some stuff out there about it. It was I mean I was really excited when they came to me because I've done a couple short stories for DC. I did a Batman short story in a Halloween annual. I did a
Mhm.
Bizarro short story in a Valentine's Day annual that was a Bizarro in love story.
Oh no.
And I'd actually, in other media, I actually was showrunner for, there's a Spotify did a Batman audio drama series, a bunch of Hollywood actors and stuff called Batman Unburied, and then a follow up called the Riddler, Secrets in the Dark, and I was kind of main creators on those. So I know DC to some extent, and I grew up with DC to some extent, but it's not as familiar a stomping ground for me as the Marvel universe, which I kind of like know by like the back of my hand. So, but because of that, it's exciting. It's exciting to like you get a little re-energized, kind of going into a new a new situation and new characters, a new world, a new energy. For me, this was more. I mean, it's still. I'm always going to be psychological. I'm always going to be about characters, where they come from, who they are. But DC is a little bit. It's brighter colors. It's a kind of more mythic kind of canvas, and so
Mm.
you're taking different kinds of swings, I suppose. And this
Mhm.
is also a team book. It's very much like a superhero team book. Like right now, recently at Marvel, I've been like doing Daredevil and Wolverine, right? Very kind of
Right.
gritty, grounded heroes, even though Wolverine gets in all sorts of craziness and Daredevil was like fighting demons. There's still like, angry guys that hit things,
Right.
and, having like, here's an android, here's a cyborg, here's a Green Lantern, here's a Kryptonian. It felt a little of that Exiles energy again. I haven't done a team book since Exiles, so I'm really excited to be working on a team book, partially just because it's so much fun to do dynamics. Like I'm very good at going deep into one character's head, but I like doing interplay between characters a lot as well, and so it's fun to do that. So, Justice League Red is a story. The new status quo in the DC universe is essentially that there's been a reformation of the JLU, Justice League Unlimited,
Mhm.
and it's essentially a big tent. They're taking pretty much everybody who might be called a hero or thought of a hero and extending the invitation to everyone. Um, and they're in the Watchtower again, satellite headquarters, kind of going around the Earth. Red Tornado is the kind of the engineer, as it were, running everything, surveillance systems, everything. But
Yep.
he is disembodied currently. He no longer has
Right.
a body. And this is a book about kind of the dark side of that project, right? So Justice League Red is about kind of when people at the top start making decisions that are incomprehensible to the people who have to live them out and stuff, and keep
Mhm.
secrets and tell lies. And so it's kind of a big, it's a book for our time in some ways. But it's also like a book about robots and cyborgs and Kryptonians punching things, and um, it's it's my version of like a Black Ops book, an X Factor book, or a Suicide
Nice.
Squad book, or something like that. But
Mhm.
for me, the thing about those kinds of books has always been like, there's a reason, right, that like Black Ops are covered up. And like usually it's not because people are just such cool, badass Navy SEALs. It's because like people are like shooting kids or something crazy like that, right? Like bad
Right.
things happen in Black Ops operations often,
Mhm.
and I'm not talking about U.S. military specifically, but just in general, when people talk about secret, covert military things, like it's usually bad stuff that's being done. It's not
Mhm.
usually like, oh, I'm a cool assassin and I'm taking out a really bad person, you know? So like I wanted to kind of like dig into that a little bit and be like, what orders get issued, why do they get issued, and have a team that bumps up against that. Not because they're villains who are being forced to do it, but just
Mhm.
because they're heroes who wonder whether they have to do this, right? So it's a lot of fun. I love all those characters. Power Girl's crazy, Dead Man's crazy. It's yeah, like this is like big superhero stuff, and it's fun to go in that direction after like more grounded heroes.
Oh yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, that
Well,
sounds great.
do you have a main lineup that you're going to be using?
Yeah, right now it's I think they're on the first cover, so it's no secret. It's Power Girl. Well, Red Tornado is the one who forms the team, but his role in the team is complicated. Power Girl sort of like field commander, sort of kind of, and then we've got Simon Baz, Green Lantern. This is another instance of like a piece that's on the table that more could be done with. Like, I'm literally from his hometown, Simon Baz. He's from Dearborn, Michigan, right? So like, I was like, I got it. We have to do something with this guy. So I'm giving him a little, not a new take, but shining light on a little different part of his character. Cyborg, I've always liked. He's he's from Detroit also, actually. So they get into their hometown buddies. And then Dead Man, who's like, I always love the weird supernatural occult stuff in any superhero universe. So he's going in that role. And then we've got Red Canary, who this is a one rare instance where I was like, let's do a big new thing. And I won't get too into it, but we're going to try and really put a spotlight on Red Canary and level her up a little bit for readers. And so we got some cool things planned to make that happen.
All right. Wow, that does sound great. Who's who's your collaborator on that? Your artist? If you can say, if you can't, no worries.
Yeah, I think it's been announced. Just bear with me here. I'm pretty sure they made the announcement.
We can just wait. It's fine. We don't want the DC to be like, hey,
I
we
never,
heard
it's so
what
funny
you
with
said.
these details because
I
imagine
that's strike one, Saladin. Don't they don't want you don't want task force.
Give me 2 seconds to look and check. We're live, right? I know it's embarrassing, but
don't even worry.
No, it has been announced. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Okay.
I don't. Of course, they would have announced it because they shared the art. It's Clayton Henry, who was most recently working. I want to say, not World's Finest. He was doing
Action Comics, right, Leo? He was working with Mark Waid.
He was just doing. Yeah. With Mark Waid and oh man, Clayton's art is like, it's just perfect. It's like super clean lines, really great action, facial acting. I don't want to be blasphemous, but he's like, some of his drawings are like when you see those old 1980s Garcia Lopez like style guide drawings, like it's like that kind of super clean classic style, and I just I love it. He's doing a killer job.
That's awesome. I know we only have a couple minutes left. I wanted to
get the last question.
Well, I just wanted to make sure we touch on, outside of comics and writing, or it could be inside, whatever you want. What do you do on your off time? Like, do you play video games? Do you watch movies? You go for hikes. What drives you on your downtime?
The parent.
I exercise all the time and eat only raw. No, I don't ever exercise. I play video games, basically.
Oh, nice.
So I'm a single dad with my kids with me half of each week, every other weekend. And so when my kids are with me, I'm just I have 15-year-old twins, so they're a little bit more self-guided now, but teenage little kid problems become teenage problems, so you're always doing something. So that's pretty much most of my life when I'm doing that, and then working my butt off when I'm not watching the kids. That is the one thing when people are like, how do you do this? You're so busy. I'm like, yes, because I have to be. Because making a living as a working writer is it takes a constant hustle, and so I'm constantly hustling when I'm not taking care of my kids. But when I'm not doing either of those things, it's video games. I'm a horrible video game addict. So
what are you playing?
Yeah.
Well, right now I started to play. I finally downloaded Balatro, right, which is like this card game roguelike that actually was nominated for Game of the Year, and it's like crazy addictive. So I've been playing a lot of that. But I like Yakuza games a lot. I like Persona games a lot. I like it tends to be Japanese games mostly, but not exclusively. So, but really, if
Are,
you stick something cool in front of me, I'll play it. I got that Expedition 33 I downloaded that
oh, I
everybody's been
heard good
playing,
things
and
about that.
it looks awesome, but I haven't played it yet.
PS5, are you on?
Yeah,
Or what?
yeah.
Yeah. Have you done Black Myth Wukong?
Yes, I did. Yeah, yeah, yeah. See, that's the sick. That's like where all my time and my disposable income goes. So like, I got that day one. Started playing that day one because I'm a
Uh,
Souls like dork. So yeah, yeah.
nice.
The embarrassing fact is I haven't beaten the final boss yet, or the optional final
Oh,
boss. So it's stuck on that. So
oh,
I'll
okay.
pick it back up at some point.
Yeah,
Nice.
definitely. Because I got so addicted to that game. You have to actually finish it like 4 times in order to get like the most powerful like armor and everything.
Of course you do.
But yeah, once you beat it once, it's you can really yeah. I think I'm on my third playthrough right now. But yeah, game is
I really,
friggin' fun.
it's for me. It's because I don't know. I mean, I watch TV shows some, watch movies some, but like I really feel like the best storytelling happening right now is happening in video games and in comic
Yeah.
books, of course. But but like it's just such the diversity of the genres. The like it's yeah I love the story in video games as well as playing them. So that's like, and I would never want to work in that industry because you have to have something that you just love that you never touches your
Oh yeah.
life and money, but I've considered a couple projects, but it would have to be something like yeah, like dreamlike to make me want to work in it because I feel like then that would taint it if I started making video games as well as playing them.
That's great. But all right, so so we're pretty much almost at the 1 o'clock mark. So we know you said you had to bounce around then, so we're gonna let you go. So so one, thank you so much for this time. This has just been
Thank you guys.
fantastic, man.
Yeah.
Please let us know, especially if there's anything like I know that you were doing some stuff on Kickstarter back in the day. So if you have anything Kickstarter wise that you're ever releasing, we do a segment on our show where we promote Kickstarters. So we'd be more than glad to promote that or anything else. And of course, there's anything upcoming you want to come back on for, please, we'd be glad to have you.
Yeah, I'd love to come back.
Yeah, yeah. And last thing, as Leo would say, if people want to see you at any conventions or your upcoming cons, or what's the best way for people to, get in touch with you via social media if you're on it?
So here's a hilarious thing: is I'm completely off of social media now. I still have a
Okay.
public email address, believe it or not. It's just email saladinahmed@gmail.com. So if you ever have
Yes.
a burning question, email saladinahmed@gmail.com. It's pretty
True.
infrequent that I check it. You'll be waiting a little while for a response, but I do check it and tend to respond.
It is true. He does. I learned that the hard way. So good.
Awesome.
Are
Well,
you going to any cons?
I'm sorry, what was it?
Are you going to any conventions that people would,
I'm hoping to make it to New York in October, but
Mhm.
it's still a little bit of a maybe, sort of, gotta wait and see thing. I've not
Okay.
been traveling a lot this year, just kind of because of like some personal and family reasons. So, but I'll probably be back on the circuit hardcore come 26. So.
Okay, cool, no problem. Well, all right.
awesome.
Jeremy, Leo, do you guys have anything else?
No, well, we're
It
right
is
at
one.
the one.
I mean, I've
Yeah.
got 2 or 3 minutes if you got a last.
Oh, okay. Okay.
What's your worst comic pitch that you absolutely love that you're still trying to just work the bugs out of and get fixed?
My worst one.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know. I'll say this: what you find out once you start working in the industry is like everybody's got their like perfect idea for character X, Y, or Z, and you really realize they don't care. They don't care what your perfect idea is in general. They care about like what their needs are at the moment. So if you know Green Lantern's got a movie coming out, then that's what you're going to probably be working on, is something Green Lantern related. It's really determined by market forces a lot. But I guess, that's the funny thing is my weirdo little pitches. I've been lucky enough to get to do some of them. I wanted to do a Spider-Man horror book, right? And I was like, hey, here's an idea for a Spider-Man horror book. And I thought they'd be like, no. And they were like, yes. And so we made spine-tingling Spider-Man, Juan Ferreira and I. And that's one of the best things I ever made. Like, so, and it was like, it started out just as like an idea that I thought would get shot down. So I won't state any I'm still holding on to in the slim chance that they actually get made into something, but everybody has their bad pitches. So, and the thing is, if you don't make it with the characters you're imagining it with, eventually, you can make your own thing that's got the serial numbers filed off. So
There you go. But I have one. Since you've been to conventions and whatnot, was there any creator you yourself just had to meet and you was like, oh my God, I'm such a big fan? And they were like, oh, cool. And then maybe they might have heard of you and they're like, they know my work. Yes.
Yeah, that's a real interesting question. I mean, for me, the freak out meeting him was Christopher Priest. He didn't know who the fuck I
Yeah.
was, nor should he have, right? Like, but it was funny because he's just a guy, right? He's just like, yeah, okay, try not to slobber on him. He's like,
Right.
yeah, it's nice to meet you, So I think I gush if I like. Thank God I never met Jack Kirby. Right? Like part of me's like,
Oh
oh,
my
why didn't I ever
God.
meet Jack Kirby? And then thank God I never met him because that poor man, I would have tackled
Yeah.
him. So, but the coolest version of that, I guess, actually came more from my prose days. When a short story that I wrote, or a Western short story. LeVar Burton of Reading Rainbow
Nice.
emailed me one day. I was like, we want to use your story in a series where I read short stories for podcasts. So I was like,
No way.
you're shitting me.
That's
So yeah,
awesome.
that was about as cool as it gets.
Oh
That's
yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. Yeah, and I've met both of those people, so I can agree with you. Yeah, they're chill dudes.
Yeah,
they're like, you did this thing, and they're like, yeah, I did that, and they're like,
exactly.
cool. Yeah, it's like I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, that's fine. But all right. Well, I think that
Well, thank you
I
so
don't think I have
much.
anything else. Yeah, but thank you so much, Saladin. We really appreciate it, man.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, and good luck with everything you're working on, the Justice League and anything else. And yeah, just good luck and overall, hope you have a good rest of the day, man.
Thank you. Yeah,
Oh.
I got there are a few other things in the works. So maybe once those like are out in the open and stuff, we can circle back and meet again.
Absolutely, you're
Had a
more than
blast.
Very
welcome.
cool.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. So, like I said, just the red button, and then it'll bring you to the uploads page. Just let it go to 100, and like I said, if anything comes up, we'll just send you a link.
Thanks a lot. This was fun, guys. You have a good one.
Same.
You as
Thank
well.
you. Much
Yeah.
appreciated. Bye.
That was
And
awesome.
then ready. All right. So, Leo, we're not doing any news. So, do you want to just
Yeah.
in the words of the great Han Solo, blow it, Chewie. Let's go home. No, that's Luke. All right, kid, do this thing. Let's go home.
Punch it, Chewie. Actually, speaking of, well, not Star Wars, but Superman, just really quick, as I was rereading his Wolverine story, I was thinking about, obviously, both of you saw Superman, right?
I'm a punk
I do.
rocker. Yes, I am.
Yeah.
I just read about a cut scene that they did, and seeing the Wendigo totally made me think of it.
Dude. Yeah, I read about. I think we're talking about the same thing because I've been wondering about it since I saw the toy.
Excuse me.
Okay.
Whoa, no. I don't know about this. So that means other people might not. We're not going to do this privately.
No.
No. It's
not a
not actually
spoiler.
in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's they got a toy, but it's a cut scene, so it's not in the movie, and I doubt we'll ever see it. But yeah. So and it's in the first 5 minutes. So when Crypto is pulling Superman to the fortress, and we've all seen that.
Yes.
Apparently, there's a section where they keep on passing dead abominable snowmen. So Crypto's like out in the Arctic, just like massacring abominable snowmen.
Yeah, definitely.
You gotta stop killing the snowmen, Crypto.
Yeah. And so they have a toy of an abominable snowman.
Did you by chance see any discarded snow cones? Just out of curiosity, because that's how I imagine my abominable snowman. Will just welcome to the Himalayas, snow cone. But that's
strawberry flavored.
Yeah,
Why is it
exactly.
red?
Wow. Okay. I gotta say, I just briefly, I just need to say this. That was one of the best Superman I've ever seen. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
have not stopped listening to Punk Rocker by the Teddy Bears featuring Iggy Pop since. And that's just I'm in a bad mood. I pump that. I'm like, I'm good. So,
Do you have Spotify?
yeah, I do, Leo. But the
Okay.
point being is that I just can listen to that song on
No,
loop.
no, 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 no. Since you have Spotify, you can go to the album for
Yeah, I know.
James Gunn, and so it tells you like what character you are based on what you watch or you
Oh,
listen to.
oh,
So
clearly I'm Metamorpho or Ultraman. I'm
well,
just evil.
you have to go and it'll tell you. Apparently, I'm Jimmy
Oh,
Olsen.
how
So
sad I am
I
about
am
the
not
Teenage
surprised that
Dirge.
you're Jimmy Olsen. You know.
Yep, beating off the women with the stick there. Huh?
Mhm. And it's okay. Well, listen, Jeremy is clearly Steve Lombardo, so that's
Oh,
okay.
definitely.
100%. And um, but I just, the
Go
thing you
team.
enjoy with James Gunn is that you can't listen to the songs he uses the same, because I can't listen to that one song and I'm like, if someone's talking about it's gonna be fun, 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 I'm like, oh no, somebody's about to get their ass whooped. Like,
I keep on listening to that Crab song, Crab Rocket Crab. What is
hmm
it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But so Spotify, it's not the actual songs from the movie. It does have some of them, but it's
Okay.
basically he put together tracks of what he thinks the characters would listen to, and
Oh,
so he does a description from each, saying, hey, Clark, he thinks he's edgy, but he's not, and this is, so yeah, definitely check out the Superman package. So
the thing
not
that
his
I just want to say I saw this thing online briefly, and it was just so funny because my comic book brain just like immediately like started writing a dissertation. It was like, who is the greatest hater? And it was Eddie Brock from Spider-Man 3 and Lex Luthor from Superman. And the person was trying to argue in Eddie's defense, and I'm like, okay, like I had to put that. I was like, excuse me, y'all need to sit down, dim the lights. I'm about to go to work. Like, don't get me wrong. Eddie Brock has legitimate claim. The man went to try to kill himself, couldn't do it, went to church, got bonded with an alien monster, and just that ate people. But try being a billionaire genius industrialist whose hate of an alien is so great that it causes him to become not only a criminal, but also the president of the United States, get indoctrinated with kryptonite injections, and almost try to wipe out everybody on Earth so he gets to restart society. I was like, I'm giving it to my boy Lex. Like,
I have to say that was one of the best portrayals of Lex I've ever seen too.
Oh yeah.
Nicola
I,
Colt, like,
I just the again, James Gunn just does casting very well. He knew what he was looking for, and Nicholas delivered. And yeah, I mean, honestly, I've been telling anybody, I was like, this is the movie we need right now. So that's just what I've been telling everybody. This is a true feel good movie. But I also feel that do you guys remember when there was a lot of polarizing views about Barbie?
Yeah.
oh
You
yeah,
remember?
the movie.
Yeah, the movie. And I think Superman is very similar to Barbie in the context of you'll see what you want. You know, if you're looking for a certain portrayal, you'll see it there.
Hmm.
But if you're looking for a certain thing, you'll also see it there, you know? So if you're looking for things to criticize, you'll find them. But if you're just
Oh yeah,
looking to just enjoy it, you'll find that too. So to me, again, I know it has its critics, and I'm like, listen, it's no one's, there's very few movies everyone's going to universally love. So I'm just like, listen, you're entitled to your opinion. Just, it's about how you express yourself. That's when I think we have
just
issues.
know it's an opinion and not a fact.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
good lord, good
Exactly.
lord.
But either way, Superman, great. And now the question is going to be, now the Fantastic Four is coming. So we're going to see
Mhm.
how that goes. But
I have to say, with the trailers they've been showing, I've been getting a little more excited for it. I was kind of like, off in my own world, like, oh, Fantastic Four. It's great to finally get them in the Marvel universe, but is it a little bit too late?
yeah,
And then now I'm kind of like, with their like, we're back from talking to Galactus, trying to reason with him, and I'm like, this
well,
sounds more like what I want.
well, I think the thing that I appreciated is that they avoided a really big plot problem by making it in a separate universe. And
Yep.
yeah, it's like, okay, here we go. It's like what CW did. Like, oh, Supergirl's on another Earth, and then so is Black Lightning, and so is the Flash and Arrow, and then we're gonna put them on. All right, it's like anything. They're gonna be all together eventually. But they're like, yeah, we put them in a separate universe so we could avoid people be like, where the fuck were these guys when Thanos was tearing up New York? And I'm like, thank you,
Yeah.
because someone would ask that question.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, so we will see. Yeah,
That's
but
actually what I think Superman's doing right. Like, they're so comic booky, very comic booky, that you get to suspend all belief. Like Lex coming up with the way to fight him and all that stuff. I was just like, this is a comic book. This is straight out of my mind. Like,
well, and
R1.
Yeah.
and also I think the other thing that was really great is that James's Superman is not all powerful. He can
No.
get it whooped. And I think the
Yeah.
way I look at it is his Superman is Superman Return. As in
Mhm.
when Superman came back after dying fighting Doomsday, remember? He wasn't exactly the same levels.
Yep.
It was a little different. I think that's like I was like, okay, like yes, he's still very powerful and everything, but he can still get fucked up, you know. And again,
No, I
usually,
actually like that, because it gives you the whole feel while you're in the movie. Like, okay, Superman might not win.
well, yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing that's important is yes, he's like a god, but I think what James did is that he really made the appeal about Superman's humanity.
Hmm.
you know that and and I love that a lot of comic book creators showing the support are posting a lot of these great moments reflecting that yeah, I mean, again, and it's funny because I've been turning a lot of people who have been talking to me about the movie. I was like, yeah, I'm mentioning Superman for All Seasons, All-Star Superman, Superman Birthright, even Man of Steel. I'm like, these are all books that are referenced in James Gunn or they played some inspiration. So, and they're like, oh, okay. And then people are like, wow, this is great. I'm like, I know. Why would I give you why would I give you some garbage? Like, like you're gonna come to me and disrespect my knowledge? Like, off.
Leave the
Uh,
cannoli.
yeah, exactly. Like, you come to me all day to talk about Clark Kent and Kal-El from Superman. And I don't even know what is it Krypton? Is it Kryptonite? I don't get it.
Oh, I
You know,
I even love the take on Jor-El and
Oh yeah.
his mom, whose name I'm fucking totally
I'm just
blanking on.
glad because I'm like, thank God I can understand. Because sometimes you're watching the Donner, like Brando's accent, it's just
My
my son.
son.
Yeah, my son is gonna be, it's gonna go to this new world. It's gonna be great. It's gonna fly. It's gonna do the thing. I'm like, oh my God, someone give Jor-El a cat. You know, I'm gonna make this doomsday an offer I can't refuse. No, it's I'm gonna make this General Zod an offer I can't refuse. If not, I'm gonna send him to the Phantom Zone, baby. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm just like I can't. But
Krypton.
yeah, right.
Krypton.
Yeah, Krypton. Krypton. Yeah, I'm just like Ton. Kryp. Can you imagine? I can just imagine the frustration. I was like, did you know? No, I couldn't figure out the lines. I think I had a moment I forgot how to read. Like, all right. And you just, you're like, and you're like, I think for me, it was just like they had to write the lines on the kid's diaper. I'm like, I'm sorry, are you for real?
Well,
Like
he didn't
you're
read. He didn't read the script.
no, I know, but that's what I'm saying. Like I'm like you're one of the acting greats. I'm confused because what? And they're like, oh, it's Brando. It just doesn't make sense. And I'm like, how? Like it's one of those that you tilt the head. I'm like, am I drunk? Am I
Or
like,
a T.
yeah, exactly. Like, at some point you feel like he's gonna be like, somebody pass me some Doritos, I'm gonna pass out. You know, but no, it was like again, I'm not gonna. I don't want to stick into too much because, it's
Oh yeah.
still kind of new out. I don't want to ruin that for anybody watching, but it was really for me. I can say for me because I'm going through a rough patch right now. This was the movie that I really needed to see because it just kind of like it power ring charged me. I was like, you know what? Things are rough. It can get better. Just got to remember to be. Superman taught us being kind is really punk rock. So I was like, okay, I could do that. I could be punk rock. Yeah. So that's it. That's my 2 cents. Put it in the piggyback pond.
And
Okay.
thus our final
All right.
thoughts.
Do you, Leo, since this is a show beforehand, do you want me to just briefly mention what we're doing next week or?
Yeah.
Oh crap. Here I am. Hey everybody, thank you for joining us on Saturday. You can return to whatever you were doing on your Saturday now. Thank you so much. But if you like what you saw here, please do subscribe to our YouTube page. We really appreciate that. Every follow helps, and I guarantee we're going to be bringing a lot of great stuff, especially as we are still on our countdown to Terrificon. But before that, we do have one or two other shows that are going to be absolutely fantastic. So next week on Tuesday, our usual 8 p.m. time, we're going to have a couple of people from Homebrewed Comics coming by, going to be talking about their work. We're really excited. We love supporting our fellow creators in the independent sector. And then following that, we also fortunately going to have another person coming by, a Mr. Paul Jenkins. So definitely a lot happening. And then by then, it'll soon be August, which means Terrificon will come up. And there's a lot happening there. So definitely stay tuned.
Awesome.
All
Well,
right,
on
Leo.
that, yeah, we're going to wrap things up. I want to thank everybody for watching this fine evening. Go check out Saladin's work. Yeah, amazing stuff. For me, you know how to find me, but more importantly, follow these awesome people here, Drew and Jar Jar. And speaking of that, Jar Jar.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you liked the episode, share it with a friend, leave us a review, and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming up next. Until next time, stay curious, stay creative, and maybe try not to arm wrestle Black Bolt.
Ooh.
My arm's blurred.
Yeah, it is.
I like the blur in the back, but it blurs too much, like my fingertips.
Yeah, you might be able to lower that. I don't know.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
Can you blur this?
Whoa. that should have been blurred.
All right. Hey everybody, thank you for joining us. As you can tell, we like to mess around here, but respectfully. Yeah, so if you need to get in touch with me, I'm Drew Malo on Facebook, Ghostbusterman1984 on Instagram, also there on Blue Sky. I'm trying to dust that off. Thank you, Leo, for doing that. Some things never change, no matter who comes and goes. Yep, we're just generally busy, so I don't know. Leave a message at the beep, and we'll get to you within this century. Beep.
Beep.